Hello, welcome, gorgeous beings of light. This is Elmara coming to you with 100 Miracles in 100 Days project and the fifth dimension activation and effortless manifesting quickie. Let's start by taking a long, slow, deep breath in, as deep as you can go, filling your belly up with air, and then breathing out through the mouth with a little bit of sound or a sigh as it brings you into this present moment. Do this several times, please. Just follow your breath in through the nose and out through the mouth or out through the nose to bring your awareness within. So if your mind begins to drift, if you just bring it back to focusing on your breath coming in through your nose and then out through your mouth and letting go of everything that's outside of this moment. Because it's your mind, your ego that takes you away from your centeredness. And just that one little thing can help you stay connected within your own being. And if you hear that lovely monkey mind going, I can't feel anything, you're such an infinitely powerful being. That's exactly what's happening for you. So just change that to, what can I feel? What can I feel? And when you're ready, just move your breath to in through the nose and out through the nose unless you're releasing, meaning that you're yawning. And please, if you do start yawning, don't put your hand over your mouth. Let that energy come out of you. When you yawn, you're releasing grief. So same with your burps. Don't swallow them, let them come up. Let them rip up out of you. It's all just a fantastic sign that energy is moving. So today is miracle number 44, and because that's one of my favorite numbers, I wanted to speak of a really, really powerful miracle, and it took me a while to pick which one, but I've got a goodie for you. But firstly, we're just going to connect to the fifth dimension. If you've just landed here today, I am teaching you the first step to my fifth dimension activation, and we shifted our the word's gone blank. Our meditation, this activation, across to the fifth dimension a couple of sessions, a couple of miracles ago, mostly because I'm going to begin teaching a powerful fifth dimension activator training program on the 3rd, 4th of March. And I say that day because it's the 4th in Australia and the 3rd in USA. Just breathe for me. It's a 10-week program. And if you would like some more information about that, please contact us. I'll give a little bit more information, although I probably won't have time. This is a big, big miracle. I wanted a big, big miracle for number 44. So just to say that we are going to start training. There'll be more information below. That's probably the easiest way to say that. So let us begin the fifth dimension meditation by just following our breath in through the nose and out through the nose. And then I want you to take your awareness into the center of your being and breathe in. And imagine that you're breathing out and pointing your fingers up to the sun, and you're breathing out and you're connecting your energy into the sun. And I do this by raising my hands up and pointing the energy from my fingertips to the sun. And you just breathe out until you can feel your energy connecting with the energy of the sun. And then just breathe in and bring a scoop of that gorgeous golden light down from the sun, straight in through your crown chakra. And then just breathe out through your being, out, and take the last 5% of that energy all the way down into the core of Mother Earth, where you'll find another big golden sun in the center of Mother Earth. You're going to breathe in and bring the energy from the center of Mother Earth up. And then breathe all that gorgeous energy from the center of Mother Earth into your being. Take the last 5% up to the sun. Breathe in, bring golden source light from the sun down. Let it fill every one of your 100 trillion cells and 100 trillion telomeres. And breathe the last 5% out. And connect that into the core of Mother Earth. And breathe that awesome energy from the core of Mother Earth, along with all the minerals and nutrients and everything you need to sustain your physical life here on Earth. Breathe it out into your body. Take the last 5% up to the sun. Now, this is best done. This is best done standing barefoot on Mother Earth. But if you can't stand barefoot on Mother Earth, you can, and it's because it's snowing outside or whatever, you can do it seated, or if you're unwell, you can do it seated. And you can do it lying down, although it's a bit hard to get that alignment thing happening. But if you're sick, you can still imagine that you're connecting to the sun and the earth. But make sure you lie on your side so the energy can flow up and down your spine. Breathe. And just imagine, it's best to do this in the morning. You can do it at night. It works just as effectively at night time because the sun is out somewhere in the world. When I first got to Melbourne in 2005, I used to run nighttime training courses in Melbourne. And it worked just as well. So and if you drift off, just bring your awareness. That's why moving your hands actually helps you stay focused. Because your brain is busy doing something. Like it's busy pulling energy down from the sun and putting it into your body, and then it's busy pulling it up from Earth. So I still move my hands after 20, whatever it was. Spirit taught me this in 1997, so I guess we're going on for 25 plus years now. Just breathe in, draw the energy down from the sun. I just imagine that it's, in my hands as well, and I run my hands down the front of my chakras, down the front of your body, in case you don't know what chakras is. And just breathe the last 5% out through the lotus chakra on your feet, or if you're seated, out through your spine, and down and into the core of Mother Earth. Tie the energy around Earth, and I do a little, just swing my hands around in a circle. And I breathe in and bring that energy from Earth all the way back up, and I'm using my hands to draw it up. Breathe it out. Take the last 5% up to the sun. Breathe in. Breathe out. Tie it round Earth. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. To your body, breathe out. Last 5% going down into Earth. Breathe in from Earth. 100% energy coming all the way back up. Breathe 95% of that out into your body and take the last 5% up to the sun. As you begin to do this, you may begin to feel energy moving in your hands. You may begin to feel energy tingling in your body. And you may not be feeling a damn thing, but that does not mean that something truly powerful isn't happening. You can just ask, what can I feel? or just continue doing it, because this will bring you into alignment with the earth and the sun. And I'll give you all the other reasons why it's fantastic when we do the training. But just for now, just know that it brings you into full alignment with the earth and the sun. And that's why you start vibrating higher instantly from just doing step 1. So I want you to continue breathing down from the sun into your body. Taking the last 5% into earth and breathing out. Breathing that energy out into your body. Last 5% of time. So just continue that up-down movement. It's best to do it breathing in through the nose and out through the nose unless you're releasing. So today's miracle begins with me waking up completely startled. And my breath, I was just staring at the ceiling, and I wasn't even breathing. It was such a real dream. And I had dreamt that I was with my father, and we were kind of on like a grassy knoll that kind of was like in a bay shaped, and there was this grassy knoll, and he and I had just got back from bringing our boat back because someone had tried to steal it. And then next thing, because dreams are disjointed, I'm running up a metal staircase to the top floor of a brick building, and I'm shaking my dad going, Dad, wake up. Those mongrels are trying to steal your boat again. Gosh, it takes my breath away remembering this. And my dad turns over and looks me directly in the eyes, which will be relevant to the rest of the story later, and says to me, I know material things have always been important to me, but right now I'm in the process of dying and I've just got more important things to deal with. God, I can still feel the energy of that from, 15, 18 years ago. And I woke up startled and was just staring at the ceiling. Six weeks later, I've completely forgotten about the dream. And I'm up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, which is kind of sort of usual. And I can't get onto my computer. Like I can't get the internet to work. I had 2 phones in the house that I was in Norman Park. And one of them was my phone, my line exclusively, and the other one belonged to the members of the house. They had their own line that they shared. And it was in one of the housemates, or flatmen, it was a housemate's room. But for whatever reason, I just woke up and my internet that was connected to my phone back then, it's really different now, but back then your internet came through your phone line and you had it as either a phone line or the internet. Mine's not working. So I get on to Telstra when they open like 8 o'clock or whatever in the morning, and give them the other phone number because I had this one, mine, linked up to the internet trying to get onto it. And I'm waiting for a call back from them. So it's about, lunchtime-ish. The other phone rings and I go out and pick it up. And it's actually my sister ringing to say that my dad had had a massive stroke and that he was in a coma and that he wasn't expected to live. Now that's the first miracle in this story, because I would never normally have picked up that phone, but because my internet was not working, I picked up my housemate's phone and got the call from my sister that said, who I hadn't spoken to in 10 years, I have to tell you, that said my father was, had had a stroke and was in a coma and in intensive care in the Cairns hospital. I was living in Brisbane at the time. Cairns is far enough away that it's a plane flight away. So of course I go into panic like everybody else does, and I start organising time off from work, flights up to Cairns, etc., etc. And my housemate says to me, so my housemate whose phone, where the phone was in her bedroom, she's driving me to the airport and she goes, "Elle, remember the dream? Do you remember the dream?" I said, "What dream?" And she reminded me of waking up and staring at the ceiling and my dad telling me he was in the process of dialing and having more important things to do. And I just go, place my hand over my mouth, shocked or whatever. So anyway, I get up to Cairns, did I hire a car then or was it later? I can't remember. Anyway, that's not relevant. Get to my sister's place. The usual stuff is going on in my family where everyone's yelling and screaming and shouting at one another. So I just took myself into the hospital to see Dad. And maybe I went straight to the hospital. Anyway, I get there and there's this rigmarole you have to go through to get into intensive care, and rightly so. You have to wash your hands even if you go out to go to the toilet. Like even if you just wash them, you have to wash them again for 5 minutes or whatever it is. And I walk in and there's my dad with my family members standing around. No acknowledgement of him. They're all just shouting and talking over the top of one another in intensive care. And the curtains are closed. And I'm trying to tune into Dad's energy because he's in this irretrievable coma. It's the bit that's really kind of spooky. I walk back out, and you have to come out of the intensive care, and the toilets are outside the public toilet, so you have to walk backwards to go to the toilet. And as I'm walking back into the intensive care, the first thing that triggers, and I don't even notice it's triggered, is that there is a set of metal steps, and we're up on the top floor of a brick building at the Cairns Hospital. I wash my hands, walk down into where Dad is, and they've opened the curtains now when I get back in, and there is this, there in front of me is a bay, a grassy knoll, complete with a boat disappearing around the corner of the bay. And I remember bursting into tears at that point because I knew that was my father was not long for this world. Just because my dream had obviously been a premonition dream, or a prophetic dream is what they're always also called, prophetic dream, where you predict the future, so more or less. And so there was a intensive care nurse that came every hour that was going, "Wriggle your toes, Terry. Squeeze my hand, Terry. Open your eyes, Terry," to which Dad was non-responsive. And they also do this thing where they run a pencil on his foot up, from his heel up to his foot. And apparently what happens is, like his feet were curling over like we do when we're babies, like because it's ticklish. But apparently that's a way that they can tell that they're kind of like in this irretrievable coma, because it's something, as babies we curl our feet over, but as we get older we stop doing that. But he had regressed back to being a small child, was what they had said anyway. So the family finally goes home sorry, I was just going, should I tell the rest of this story now or should I do it in another one? But maybe we'll tell it now. It's really quite a powerful story about loved ones and when they pass over and the opportunity we have to be with them and to help them and to say what we need to say even if they're in a irretrievable coma. So finally my arguing family, which I was still stunned that there was my father dying and nobody holding his hand. They're just all talking, one's on one side of him, one's on the other, just talking over the top of him, you know, like. Anyway, they eventually all leave and I decide to spend the night with my dad. And I wasn't going to go home. And I sat there and I was seated at what was his right-hand side, looking up at him in a chair, just talking to him, just speaking to him, just telling him, you know, not to be frightened and to remember, because my father was in the state that I see a lot of people in. My father had been an atheist all his life and used to run around the house going, God is shit, God is shit, just to piss my mum off, who was a Catholic who changed to be a Church of England to marry my father, who was an atheist anyway, because it was really weird back then, you know. Young people today have no idea what it was like 60 odd years ago. You know, you were supposed to never have sex before you were married and all that kind of crap. So I was one of the people that broke that rule, I have to tell you. My mother was mortified. But anyway. So, and you could tell that my father was aware that there was a God. And that's what happens, is that everyone, doesn't matter what you've done, you are returning to source light. There is no hell. There is no, it's just a man-made construct by religion to control you while you're alive. So that's why you see people in hospital that should have passed away like 10 years ago and they're just hanging on for dear life because they think that they are going to go to hell, this place that's been drummed into them. And that was my father. After if anyone was supposed to go there, it would have been him. But there is no such place as hell, in my humble opinion. I have worked with people who are dying for 30 odd years now, and I can tell you there is no such place as hell. It only exists here on earth. How you live your life here on earth determines whether you're living in heaven or whether you're living in hell. The other stuff, the fire and brimstone stuff, is stuff that is made up by religions to control you, is my understanding of what's going on. Because if you've done really, really bad things, of course you'll have some training to do on the other side before you come back down again. But basically, there is no judgment or no, everyone returns to source. Everyone's soul returns to source when you drop the body. That's what's happening. Pure God source exists within you. You drop the body, you return to source. So I say to I'm talking to my father because I can see that he's in this terrified state, that he's off to downstairs instead of upstairs because he hasn't been a very good person in his life. And it was about 3:30 in the morning. You've got to remember the intensive nurse came in every hour going, wriggle your toes, Terry, squeeze my hand, Terry, open your eyes, Terry. I'd seen that happen for several days before I sat with him all night. And he'd not once moved a finger or an eyelid or a toe or whatever. And I'm talking to him about being a pure source, being a blight, that there's no such place as hell. It's just man-made. And when it's time, you just take a breath and you go home. And my dad, who's laid flat, actually turns his head down towards where I'm sitting and opens his eyes. And they were blue as blue. I hadn't seen them. I've got very blue eyes, but they were so blue, and I hadn't seen them that blue in all his life, because that's the spirit when it's moving away. The eyes look really dull. And his eyes were so blue, and he just opened them and turned his head down towards me, sitting on his right, and just stared at me for about, I don't know, it's probably 30 seconds or something, but it was just so, oh my God, you've got it. You're hearing me. And so, and I was just, oh God, my heart's filling with joy just remembering that he heard me, that he understood what I was saying to him. So I then go, and his whole energy went from that of fear, terrified of dying, to being in a state of not bliss, but just peace. Peace is the right word, just peace. And so I then moved my chair from the side of him, moved it round to the top of him, and put my head, he was pointing one way, and I was at the top of him, and I just put my head on the pillow and went to sleep for a couple of hours alongside with my head next to my dad's head. Woke up about 5:30 in the morning. I'm still there. I'm waiting for the rest of my family to come visit him. This is the next mini miracle that happened here that is just so exquisite. I think I am going to have to tell this in two parts. So this is a part where he's still in intensive care. So the next morning, a lovely nurse comes by and says, there was only Dad and I, there was nobody there in intensive care except Dad. There were some people over the other side, but not in the row where Dad was, in front of the window. And a lovely nurse came in and said, would you like some music? Would you like some music? Because I'd been there all night. I guess I just didn't believe anyone could sit there meditating for that long. But anyway, I said, oh, look, that might be nice. She goes, oh, she comes back with a little portable CD player that's probably about, I'm just thinking maybe where she could plug it in was probably about 20 to 30 feet away from where Dad's bed was. And she said, we haven't got many CDs. So I go over and have a look at what they've got. And I was like, Dad, do you want to? So I'm talking to Dad the whole time. And that's what I recommend you do if you have someone who's dying. Tell them everything you want to hear because they do hear it. And I'll tell you something else about that in a moment. But I'll tell you the rest of this bit. So I walk over and I say, and I telepathically, I say to my dad, oh, so they've got Mozart or they've got Willie Nelson? What do you want? And I don't hear a response from him, and I go, oh, what the heck? Mozart was my favourite. Willie Nelson was his. And I used to think country Willie Nelson especially was a pain in the bum, but Mozart was like my favourite. But my father hated classical music. Tells you something about who he was. Even though he could play 8 musical instruments by ear, he hated classical music and he used to call it dirge music. So anyway, I respond telepathically to him going, oh, what the heck, you're in a coma anyway. And I put Mozart on and I start walking back to his bed. And my dad, remember, he's in an irretrievable coma. Nurses come every hour to check his vital signs and there's nothing. And I'm walking back to his bed and he rolls his eyes around the top of his head because he hated classical music. And I'm just like, oh, I'm just like, oh, like telepathically again, so the bloody nurses don't cart me off to the psych ward. I say to him, oh, okay then, you can have what you want. And I went back over and put Willie Nelson on the CD player. I'm walking back to him and his face breaks into this massive, massive smile. And he's supposed to be in an irretrievable coma. So, when your loved ones are passing away, please, and especially if they're in a coma, please know that they hear everything that's going on, even if they tell you they're in an irretrievable coma. This is part 1 of this miracle. Because I told many people this, and I remember telling another client from Melbourne this, and she'd gone back to America because her mum was passing away. And she said she was doing the same, just telepathically talking to her mum, not out aloud. And she says to her mum, say hello to Uncle Jim for me. And her mum, out loud, in an irretrievable coma, goes, of course I'll say hello to Uncle Jim for you. So, you know, I've had the proof of other people, I'm sure if you speak to them, such a precious time when someone is passing away. I have another story of my best friend from school. We've been friends since we were 12 or 13. Irene White was her name. And she had gone down to a mum who was not well, and she closed her. She had a kindergarten, and she closed it early to go and spend. I said, yeah, go spend the time with your mum. She hasn't got long left. She goes, oh, Elle, mum's fine. She goes, her body's fine. It's just her mind that's not doing so well. Anyway, I think it's Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve or Christmas night. She's sitting in with her mum, and the rest of the family are out eating Christmas dinner, and they wanted to have someone with them all the time, with her all the time. And she's talking to her mum, saying, "Mum, everything's done here. You know, you don't hang on for us. You just go when you're ready to go." And then, you know, whatever. 5 minutes later, Waggy, her brother, yells out, "Hey, you know, I'm done now. You can have your dinner." And in the time it took for Irene to walk out to the dinner table and Waggy to walk back into his mum's room, she'd passed away. So, and Irene was like, "Oh, if I'd known that, I would have stayed another 20 minutes. And I'm like, you could have stayed another hour. Some people, it was the same. My dad ended up passing away within a 5-minute window that I laid down to rest. Because it's such an intimate process. Some people do it alone. And I used to think that when a being comes into this life, it's the most important time. But having been at several people's passings, I can tell you it's when they pass away. So please, please, if you have a loved one who's about to go home, say the things you want to say to them, because it's a whole lot harder when they're gone. But you might actually get some of the responses that you want to hear and some validation of their love for you before they go. So all of this happened while my dad was in intensive care. A couple of days later, they made a decision to turn his life support off because he was on dialysis, and it would have been that he would have died really slowly, like taken 8 months or something to die. And one of the things my father was really, really passionate about was that he never wanted to be kept as a vegetable. So he had made that clear to everybody. And so the machines were turned off after a couple of days, and he was moved out into, I don't know if it's a respite part of the hospital, but it's the part where people who are passing away go. And massive, massive miracles happened in that next 24 hours, including thousands of souls going home when he went home. And I'm going to tell that as another story tomorrow, as the next part of this miracle, because it's such a huge one. And I just want to give you all time for this to sink in, because again, like everything else, we've been led to believe that you're going to heaven or hell, or that, you know, when someone's in a coma, you can't speak to them. There's a lot of information in this miracle to unpack. And I was just like all of you at one point, but I have been changed by my experiences of being with people who have passed away. And that's included people I didn't even know that I helped pass away, and being a gatekeeper for 10, 15 years and helping people that didn't make it over to the other side go home. So just breathe for me. If this challenges you in any way, then just go back and listen to it again. If it is completely against your beliefs, then fine. Toss what I've said out the window. But just please talk to your loved ones before they go. Tell them how much you love them. Tell them how much they mean to you. Tell them how much you care about them because they will hear that even if they're in an irretrievable coma. All right, so I'm just going to send some blessed love, some fifth dimensional love to you all just for a moment. And if you'd like to know more about my work, it'll be down in the comments later today. And just know that everything is perfect even when it doesn't look that way. Everything, absolutely everything. Go out and have a beautiful, beautiful day and make the most of this precious life that we have right now. Alrighty, love, love, love. My deepest love and richest blessings to you all.